to get our next presenter up right away because we have a great afternoon for you and we have an amazing evening, trust me. Super people here. All right, so this next person that I'm bringing up here, next presenter, he's actually been called, and rightfully so, the world's number what? Small business guru. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you are in some type of business any way, shape, or form? Yes? All right, good job. And even if you're not, I think you're gonna get a lot out of this because you'll wanna be after this because this guy is totally inspiring, not just about the business, about life itself. He wrote a book that was my manual for business and literally transformed the way I did business and the way a lot of you do business, and the way I even teach you to do business. His book was called The E-Myth. And he's touched the lives of millions and millions of readers in every industry, all parts of the world. The book's been published in 19, how many? 19 different languages. And it's all about why most small businesses don't work and exactly what to do about it. It's in its 63rd printing now. Over 2 million copies. How many? 2 million copies sold. And it's always on the top 10 list all across the world. Anyways, he is not only a business guru, but I find him to be a spiritual leader and a visionary for the entrepreneurial spirit. What kind of spirit, please? Excellent. He has a new book coming out called eBook Mastery, and it's the 7 essential disciplines for building a world-class company. And literally, this book's already on the number 4 on the bestseller list. So, it is my honor and my pleasure to be able to introduce you a revolutionary and evolutionary master in the field, the one, the only, right here at Seminar of the Century, Mr. Michael Gerber! Want that?
Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon. Are you hungry? Okay, okay. Okay. All right. Well, I just turned 71. Harv told me to come casual, so I left my tie in the room. And I don't usually do this. I speak around the world, but I have never done anything quite like this. Except one time. And that was at Jack Canfield's event in Las Vegas. And I told everybody there the very same thing. That I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not here to jack you up. I'm here to wake you up. To understand why it is that so many millions of people go into business for themselves and end up sucking wind. Big time, bad time, and it's a huge, huge tragedy. Do you know that according to the Kauffman Foundation, I just read a recent report, and they're the foundation focused on entrepreneurship worldwide. They're the largest foundation of their kind. The Kauffman Foundation just completed some research on new businesses in the United States, and they say that there are 450,000 new businesses started in this country every month. Hear me, I declare it here to every single one of you, this is the age of the new entrepreneur. Over the next 200 years, a miracle is going to happen. The question is whether or not you actively engage in it or sit by and watch as it occurs alongside of you. Entrepreneurs are transforming the world. The Google boys started in their garage. Bill Gates started in his garage. Every single extraordinary company you have ever heard of started in somebody's garage, if not their own. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a garage? What are you doing in it? It's time to start a revolution. I decided a year ago, about a year and 3 months ago, actually December 2005, to take a leap into a completely new world. Since 1977, when I founded my first company, eMyth Worldwide, to transform the state of small business worldwide, to create the McDonald's of small business consulting, to transform the lives of anybody and everybody who decided they were going to go out on their own to make a living and a business of their own, to create a turnkey consulting system that everybody told me I was crazy to even imagine I could do. In 1977, I founded what is today the largest single small business development firm in the world. I was 41 years old. I was 41 years old when I started a revolution. I knew nothing about business when I started. So hear me, whether you know anything about business or don't know anything about business is irrelevant. The question is, what is your dream? Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream." When was the last time you said that about a condition in the world? Martin Luther didn't say, "I have a dream, I want to go to Hawaii." Martin Luther King didn't say, "I have a dream, I want to buy a Ferrari." Martin Luther King didn't say, "I have a dream, I want to find another wife." Martin Luther King didn't say, "I have a personal dream." Martin Luther King's dream was about changing the world. How many of you are up for that opportunity to transform the world? Please tell me whether or not you want to do that. I'm going to do that here. Now that might sound presumptuous. I didn't go to the moon. But the moon is right here in front of every single one of you. What's your moon? What's your dream? What's your vision? What's your purpose? What's your mission? What is happening out there in the world that is unacceptable to you? What is happening everywhere one looks that is completely unacceptable to you? I have a dream to transform small business worldwide. I have a vision to create a turnkey system that will enable every single person who wants to start a company, every single person who wants to awaken the entrepreneur within to be able to do it without heavy financing, without all of the things everybody says you need, without a business plan, without a marketing plan, without a computer, without the internet, without anything and everything everybody will tell you is absolutely essential to create a successful company. I didn't have anything when I started. I had a dream. The entrepreneur's dream is not a personal dream. The entrepreneur's dream is an impersonal dream. The entrepreneur's dream is not about me, it's about them. It's an extraordinary entrepreneur who won the Nobel Peace Prize last year. His name is Muhammad Yunus. How many of you have heard of Muhammad Yunus? Well, every single one of you should know the man. Every single one of you should know what he has done. Every single one of you should understand the power of extreme vision, what it means to awaken the entrepreneur within. what it means to awaken the spirit within, what it means to awaken the soul within, what it means to take off the blinders and look at the world and see what's missing in this picture, and to see, in fact, what is called upon for you and me and every single person who says, enough, it's got to be different. I'm going to do that. Guess how you do that? Nobody would believe this to be true, but this is the age of the new entrepreneur. Every single person in this area, every single person within the sound of my voice has an entrepreneur within. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. It is time to wake up. Who? The creator, the visionary, the Imagineer, as Walt Disney would say. And when I speak about business like this, people ask me or think about it and say, what in the world do you get so passionate about? How could a business get you so excited? Let me tell you why a business gets me so excited. When I started E-Myth Worldwide in 1977, I told you I hadn't a clue. I hadn't a clue about business. A friend of mine asked me to go with him to one of his clients. My friend owned a small ad agency in Silicon Valley. He said, I want you to come to me and meet Bob, the CEO, the president, the founder of this small startup company in Silicon Valley. He's got a problem. He can't convert the leads we generate for him into sales. I said, Ace, that's his name. What in the world am I going to tell Bob? I don't know anything about business. And I certainly don't know anything about high tech. And Ace said, trust me, you know more than you think you do. And the reason Ace said that, this most unlikely thing, is because I had sold encyclopedias successfully. Nobody sells encyclopedias successfully. And nobody spends as much time as I spent selling encyclopedias successfully. What Ace didn't realize is that I sold encyclopedias successfully because I was accustomed to studying with a master. And the master who taught me the mastery was the sales manager who recruited me as a young guy to go out in the street knocking on doors and say, hi, you don't know me, but you will. And I said, but I don't know how to do that. And he said, of course you don't. And that's what's so remarkable about it. You don't need to know anything about it, because I'm going to teach you every little thing you know. Anybody here want to sell encyclopedias? Yeah. Wake up. Does anybody here want to sell encyclopedias? Yeah. Of course not. He said, just do what I say. Now, I'd heard that before because my first master taught me how to play the saxophone. And when my mother and father and I went to Hollywood to meet with Merle Johnston, who was referred to us by my first saxophone teacher in New Jersey, where we came from, this is way, way, way back. We went to Merle's studio, and my mom stood here, and my dad stood there, and I stood in the middle. And I was 12 years old. And Merle came out. He's about 4'8" and about 400 pounds, bright red face. And he looked at me and he said, you must be Mikey. And he said it in such a derogatory way. And I just sort of nodded, and he said, and you must be Mrs. Gerber, and you must be Mr. Gerber. He said, you come with me, and you two stay here. I liked him from the very first moment. I had never heard anybody talk to my parents that way. It was about time. Took me in the back, which is where the students learned how to play the saxophone. He said, take out your horn, and I took out my horn, and he said, play this, and I started to play that. We must have done that for about 2 minutes. He said, put your horn away, and let's go back out in front. Went back out in front, stood in between my mother and my father again, and Merle said, I'll take Mikey, and teach them how to play the saxophone, but there's some rules for the game. Are you with me? There's some rules for the game. He said, first of all, this happened exactly as I'm describing it. I will never forget it. He said, first of all, I only teach people who want to become the best saxophone players in the world. And that's what I do. And if you doubt that, go back to Al Chesner, who brought you here, and ask him about all the people I've taught. I only teach people who want to become the best saxophone players in the world, Merle said. And he said there's only several ways one can do that. And he looked at me and said, first of all, you got to practice. You got to practice exactly what I tell you, exactly how I tell you, and exactly how much I tell you. And you've got to practice 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. And he repeated it again. I only teach people who want to become the best saxophone players in the world. Didn't ask me if I wanted to, just told me what he does. These are the rules of the game. So he said, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Now the second little problem, he said, is this is the last time I expect to see either one of you. And he pointed to my mother and my father. If little Mikey is going to get here, he's going to have to get here on a bus, and he's going to have to transfer 3 times from Anaheim, which is where we lived. And if you check out where he's going to have to transfer, if he were my kid, I wouldn't let him come alone. So please say no. He said, because I don't even like kids. I was 12 years old. And he said, finally, should you decide little Mikey is going to study with me, should little Mikey actually keep his promise to practice 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, he said, what's going to happen is he's going to start to complain to you. And he said, don't call. Everything he's going to say is true. I only teach people who want to become the best saxophone players in the world. And I don't care how old he is. This is between him and me. And then he looked at me and he said, so what do you think? And I don't know what possessed me. But I said, yeah. And we shook on it, and we left. But understand, he didn't know why I was so willing to say yes. First of all, I knew he didn't mean any of it. Understand, I knew he wouldn't remember. I knew my parents wouldn't remember. I knew parents and older people lie. It was simply that. I also knew if it took somebody else 3 hours a day to do, I could do it in about 15 minutes because I was just a natural. So I figured this was a breeze. I get to go to Hollywood, California every Saturday morning for a saxophone lesson with a guy who teaches the best saxophone players in the world, and it would be a piece of cake. So my first week I practiced maybe 3 hours, period. And Saturday came. And I went to Hollywood, California, and to Merle's studio. And I sat down outside and waited for him. And then he called me in. And I put the music book, the Close book, up on the music stand, just like that one. And I started to play. And about a minute went by, maybe 2. And he said, stop. Put away your horn. What did I say to you? I said 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. You didn't even come close. That's 1. There is no 2. Go home, do what I say, and come back here next Saturday if you are ready to become one of the best saxophone players in the world. Because you could be, but you won't. Well, I left about 55 minutes early. Got on the bus, went home, and then I had a decision to make. Now, you might think the decision was, am I willing to practice 3 hours a day? And the fact of the matter is that wasn't the decision at all. The real question was, do I want to become one of the best saxophone players in the world? And if I made that commitment to become one of the best saxophone players in the world, and if I was going to entrust Merle to become my saxophone master, then I had to do exactly what he said in exactly the way he said it. Otherwise, I was through. For whatever reason possessed me, I stayed with Merle for the next 9 years. My second master said identically the same thing to me. He said, if you're going to become a master at this, he didn't know Merle. Merle didn't know him. If you're going to become a master at this, you're going to have to do this exactly like I tell you. Not like that, but like this. Memorize the script and go down the street exactly the way I say it and say exactly what I say to exactly who shows up, and something miraculous is going to happen. Merle said to me, Michael, you don't make music. Music shows up. My saxophone, my sales manager master said, Michael, you don't make a sale. The sale shows up. And it shows up when you do exactly what you're called to do in exactly the way you're called to do it. No, not like this, like that. Just do it. And I did. So now I had two masters who taught me two different things, but each of them taught me in exactly the same way, and in each case, I mastered exactly what I was there to master. Well, after a little while of selling encyclopedias, I was tired of working with my mouth, so I thought I'd work with my hands, and I became a carpenter in Southern California. Now, understand, by that time, I was in my mid-30s. And I knew nothing about carpentry. I didn't even know how to swing a hammer. I was an absolutely rabid romantic. I honestly thought that working with my hands had more meaning than working with my mouth. So I simply showed up on the job, the first job I could convince somebody to take me to do, and they fired me in about 12 minutes. And I showed up on the next job, and they fired me in about 13 minutes. But every time I showed up on a carpentry job, I learned by watching what somebody else did, and then I did the next one, then I did the next one, and then I actually stayed for over 3 years, and they assigned me to this man who was a carpenter master. And lo and behold, the guy said exactly what everybody else had told me. Don't do it that way, do it this way. Don't do it that way, do it this way. Do exactly what I tell you, exactly how I tell you, and you'll be able to master this too. And lo and behold, I did. And then Ace took me to visit his Silicon... Are you still with me? Took me to visit his Silicon Valley chief executive officer, founder, president of this startup high-tech company in the middle of where all this stuff was going on. And Ace took me in and he introduced me to Bob. And he said to Bob and he said to me, Bob, this is Michael. Michael, this is Bob. Look, why don't you two guys get to know each other? I'm going to take off for an hour. I'll be back and I'll pick Michael up. Now, I knew something, first of all, that I didn't know anything about business. And I knew something else. Because Bob owned a business, I knew he did. So these are two assumptions I had when I sat down with Bob, the high-tech wizard in Silicon Valley, because Ace asked me to get to understand his problem, which was he couldn't convert leads into sales. So Bob said to me after we sat there uncomfortably for a couple of minutes, so Michael, what do you know about my business? And I said, nothing, Bob. He looked a little disgruntled. He said, well, what do you know about our products? And I said, less than that, Bob. And he said, Michael, if you don't know anything about my business and you don't know anything about our product, how in the hell can you help me? And I said, I haven't a clue, Bob. Ace thinks I can. You like Ace. I like Ace. Let's see what happens. We've got an hour to kill. Now, understand, I didn't know this. But my life was to be transformed in that moment. Hear me. My life was about to be transformed. It was so unbelievable that what did happen could happen. If you had been me, knowing as little as I knew, other than I actually had been taught by 3 extraordinary masters how to do 3 completely inconsistent, incongruous things: playing the saxophone, selling encyclopedias, and framing a house. What lessons have you missed when you suddenly miss the pattern that's revealing itself in your life? The entrepreneur within sees